Good morning and welcome to my kitchen. This morning what I'm going to show you is how to make what I call the He-Man special breakfast, which includes either pancakes, French toast, or waffles, diced potatoes, one of my favorites. I mix them with some onions, and also, of course, an omelet, and some meat, usually either turkey or ham or bacon or sausages. Any of them will do, whatever you like. Okay, so of course we have all our ingredients here: potatoes, mushrooms, peppers, onions, eggs. We have milk, we have Bisquick, which we usually use to make our pancakes. We have bananas in case I want to make banana pancakes. I have blueberries, blackberries. You can make pancakes with all kinds of fruit. I also have eggs that I'm going to mix with a little bit of milk, and that's going to be the base of my omelet. I'm going to put in all kinds of vegetables. So let's get started. So the first thing I like to do is prepare the potato. I like to dice them, okay? And I always like to use red potatoes. Even a large red potato is going to be smaller than, let's say, an Idaho. This is plenty for 2 people, I would say. Nice sized potato. First thing I like to do is just rinse it off, wash it a little bit, and I always like to use this kind of a peeler. I always take off the peel. It's a little bit different than the kind of peeler that you usually see. I like it because I can hold it in my hand, and it's a lot easier, I think, to work with. So I just peel the potato. And get it nice and clean, okay? And then I'm going to dice it. So to dice the potato, the first thing I do is I cut it in half. Gives it 2 nice flat surfaces, much easier to work with. And just slice it one direction. Slice it in the second direction. Okay, so now comes the tricky part. What I do is I take 1/2 side, flip it down, okay, like that. Move that to the side, and I have diced potato. And do that to the rest. Okay, so my potatoes diced. I usually like to keep a lot of these containers around, and what I do is I just keep it in here so it's ready to go when I'm ready to cook my potatoes. And I got all my potatoes. There we go. Now, part of the omelet, I'm going to put some onion, and I'm also going to use some onion to mix it with my potatoes. It's always great to peel back on the outer paper-like covering. And I'm going to cut some rings. Going to be the onions. So how do we cut them? I always start in the middle, and then I want to cut them nice and small. And since they're in rings, they separate pretty nicely. Pull off another piece of the outer shell there. And that's how I'm going to separate my onions. And here's my onions. Again, some of it's going to be for potatoes, some of it's going to be for the omelet. And of course, for my omelet, I like to use some nice mushrooms. And first thing you got to do is you got to clean them off. Whoops. Clean off some of the dirt. That's good enough. And I like to pat them dry with a paper towel. Now I want to slice them. Easiest way to slice them, cut them in half. All right. So again, they're nice and flat. Always it's easy to prepare vegetables when you cut them in half and lay them nice and flat. Easier to cut. All right. And then I just want to make them into slices. You can cut them at a slight angle. You can cut them straight. Doesn't really matter. And you get some nice slices. These are gonna, when they cook up for the omelet, they're actually gonna shrink. There'll be plenty, and they're gonna look great and taste great. Okay. Some of the big pieces you might want to cut a little bit smaller, but again, like I said, these are going to shrink once they get cooked up. Okay, and finally, again, I like to use these containers just to make sure that I have everything ready for the meal. And finally, I like to put in some peppers. I usually like to use some green and some red peppers. One way you can slice them is like across the bottom, cut them in rings, and then chop them up. It's an easy way to prepare. Now what I have here, I actually had just the heads of the peppers that were left over, and I cut them off. And you really don't want the seeds in there, so you really want to clear out those seeds as best you can. You want to really keep just the outer layer. So get rid of these seeds, and just gonna scrape these off, and then I start cutting these into small pieces. Just chop them up nice and small, and these are gonna go right into the omelet. And here we go. We have all the peppers chopped up, and I'm going to again put them into one of my containers like this. And so I got all the vegetables prepped, right? I'm going to cut some butter, and I'm going to start heating up the pans and getting it ready for frying up all the vegetables. I'm going to start with the potatoes. I start with a little pat of butter in 2 different pans. So I'm going to put like a medium flame for each of these. All right, so the small pan, I usually cook up the mushrooms and the peppers and the onions. I like to do the mushrooms first because the mushrooms are going to be the quickest. And the mushrooms should be the quickest, and I'll put them on the side. And I always use one of these to spread the butter around. I like to use butter. Some people like to use oil. I'm a butter person. Alright, so this one is going to be for the potatoes. I'm going to do the potatoes first. I'm going to add the onions later because the onions aren't going to take as long. Alright, and this one I'm going to put the mushrooms in. Potatoes in here. And then I'm going to put the mushrooms in this one. Okay. And I'm going to spread them around. I think that flame might be a little bit high on the mushrooms. I'm going to lower it a little bit. Yeah. And potatoes, that seems pretty good. It's going to take a little while. Potatoes always take a little bit longer to cook. And in a separate pan, I like to cook up peppers, and these will shrink a little as well. Same deal, put in a little bit of butter, spread it around, potatoes go. Okay. The mushrooms you're going to see are going to actually happen a lot faster than the rest of these. So when I'm done cooking them, I'm going to put them again aside in a little bowl and get them ready for the omelet. You can see that they're shrinking, which is nice. Alright. Potatoes still going. You can see how they're nicely diced. And peppers will take a little while also. I like to add a little bit more butter and mix it around. And you can see the mushroom pieces are getting a little bit tighter, a little bit smaller. They look nice and juicy. This is going to be great in the omelet. Okay, that's just about done. I'm going to put those on the side. And I'm going to just put them in a little bowl for now. I'm going to put them in the plastic now because they're kind of hot. Put them in a bowl. And it looks kind of nice. And potatoes come along. I'll turn the flame down a little bit. I like to flip them, make sure that so they get all the different sides. You want to flip them around. Now, I didn't start the onions yet. Because like I said, they're a lot quicker to cook than these. And I'm going to start the onions soon though. And I'm going to leave that. And you can see that the peppers are frying up nicely. Starting to char a little bit. I always like to get a little bit of char on the peppers. They're looking pretty good. I'll let them go for a little bit longer. And I think I'm going to start on the onions. It's sizzling. I'm going to put the onions in there, mix them up nicely. So again, I'm going to put some of these are going to go in the omelet, some of these are going to go with the potatoes. Let that cook up. Now I always like to make a 2-egg omelet. I always find if you go to the like IHOP or someplace, they usually give you 3 eggs. I personally think that's a little bit too much. There we go. And then we scramble them up really good. Use a whisk, use a fork, doesn't really matter as long as you scramble them up really good. Okay, I always like to add a little milk, a little thing that I picked up from my wife. And I've even read somewhere they say, oh, you never put milk in the eggs, but I don't know, it's worked for me. Alright, they're looking pretty good. Getting nice and golden brown. And you can see the potatoes also looking nice. So I'm just going to mix in some of the onions with potatoes, and I'm going to save the rest for the omelet. Alright, so now I got things prepped for the omelet. Pour the egg in. There we go. And I'm going to put the vegetables in on top, and I'm going to let the eggs set for a little bit before I put the vegetables on top. I'm going to mix them around. Meanwhile, I have the potatoes and the onions sitting here, just keeping warm. I think it's set enough. I'm going to pour all this on here. Around. There you go. So that omelet is nice and filled. Now some people like to put cheese in. I'm not a cheese person, so I don't like to put any cheese in my omelet. You might want to put some salt and pepper just to season it up and let it set for a little bit. A little bit of salt and pepper. That's the pepper. A little bit of salt. Usually don't like to oversalt my food. Put a little cover on top, let it set. Okay, meanwhile I set up a pan that's got some water, a little bit of water, letting it heat up, and then I'm going to put my sausages in. Now I got the sausages heating up. I'm going to flip the omelet. Now, sometimes I just like to take the omelet, instead of making an omelet, I like to scramble it up. Remember, food is to be eaten. You can make it look great, but the truth is, it's still going in your belly. So, I don't know if you want to make it look great or you want to make it taste great. Actually, sloppy food is what I like to see and I like to do. However, this time I'm going to let it set a little bit. The product looks really, really good. As the sausages, we got the potatoes with the onions, got the pancakes, and the omelet, and I just snuck a little piece of the omelet. It is so delicious. Jean, what do you think? Pretty good? Mm-hmm. Yeah, she loves it. My wife loves it. Now, if you really want to do it right, what you should do is you got to use some maple syrup, okay? Now, you can use pancake syrup, but the best thing to do is to actually use some maple syrup. Pour some maple syrup on here. That is great. Now I know I left out the part about making the pancakes. That would take me a little bit longer. I was thinking of making some banana pancakes or some kind of fruity pancakes, but I've already made some pancakes. All I had to do is reheat them. When I make pancakes, I usually make a lot, and then I would reheat them. To reheat them, what I do is I put a paper towel around them. I usually moisten the paper towel just by sprinkling water on it. And then I put them in a microwave for about a minute. And they come out pretty good. And that's how you make my He-Man special. Now, I forgot the best part. The best part is seeing me eat it. So here we go. Is this thing good or what? Delicious.